Welcome to Beyond Bosch. I'm your host, Jessica Dahl. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe and leave a review if you like this episode. Okay, I am so excited to dive right in. Today we have Sinead Bovell. She is known as the model who talks tech. She's a futurist, a speaker, a youth tech leader, and the founder of WAYE, which is an organization that bridges the gap between millennials and the digital future. And Bosch invited Sinead to come to review the Bosch technologies at the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. So welcome to the show, Sinead. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited for this conversation.
Absolutely. So I just gave a really brief, broad overview of who you are, but obviously you're much more than what I just said. Would you mind giving a little intro for our audience of who you are and what you do?
Yes, I would say, you're probably thinking a little unconventional. I am a fashion model and I am a futurist. And while those don't necessarily seem like intersecting paths, I'm on, I guess, both of them. So in true millennial fashion, wearing a few different hats. And so as a futurist and tech founder of WAYE, I use my platform to try to advance tech education in a way that's entertaining and digestible for broad audiences. And that's where the modeling piece has become really helpful. Um, you know, for most of my career, being more in the corporate world, ahead of kind of switching lanes into modeling and founding my own company, I found there were only certain people in the rooms that were having conversations about the future, that were designing the future that they wanted to be a part of. And I thought that should be everybody should get the opportunity to weigh in on the decisions that will affect their futures. And moving into the world of fashion and creatives, I saw a real need for that type of conversation, but there wasn't really somebody filling it. And so I've used my platform as a fashion model to try to raise awareness on tech education, to be a little bit more disarming and less corporate in who I am attracting, and to try to bring more voices to the table and planning and having conversations about our future with technology.
Wow, that is amazing. I love that. I know ahead of this to prepare, I did watch some of your social posts and your actually more recent TED Talk about AI, and that was like eye-opening to me. If you haven't seen it, you should go watch it. To those listening, and I'll put a link in the show notes. But one, you're very well spoken, and very relatable. Like you were saying things, and I was like, I mean, I work in the tech industry, and I was like, this is very relatable to me. Like I can understand what she's talking about. She's not using these giant terms, you know.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also a creative in a corporate world. So like this is such a need all across the board. And I think it's really exciting to hear how you can just hear your passion coming through already. And we just started the
Thank you.
conversation. So I wanted to hear a little bit like, okay, like you said, unconventional. How did you, like you said, you worked in the corporate world first, and then you became a fashion model. Like, how did that happen?
I grew up focusing on other people's versions of success. And for me, that largely meant aiming for career types and jobs that already existed. I never thought to myself, what does success mean to me? Is there something in this world that I want to create that doesn't actually exist yet? And so, I ventured down the path of finance and chemistry and university, which I loved, and then into the world of MBA and getting my master's in business. And all of those steps, I think, were right. What didn't feel right was the end goal of what I was trying to become. And so I landed kind of, the big MBA job as a consultant. It's as if I suddenly looked up and realized that this is not at all the person who I wanted to be. And I knew I needed to make a switch out of this corporate world, but I didn't know how. And I was simultaneously scouted by a fashion or modeling agency at that time. And that's when the light bulb kind of went off that maybe this could be a door to creating the version of life that I wanted to live and I wanted to see. And so I took that opportunity, was kind of, leaving MBA classes early to go to fashion shoots and kind of hiding it. And then when I got into the world of modeling, that's when I realized all of those conversations I was having in my old life, in my corporate life, people were just as interested in them. They just weren't invited to them. And that's where I thought I could kind of fill that gap and kind of broaden the audience of tech education.
Oh, I love that. Instead of, trying to squeeze people into the table, you made a new one,
Mm-hmm. I
right?
tried to, yeah.
So how did that look? Like you said, you were kind of, doing modeling and MBA at the same time. Did you have to at some point say, I have to just leap into modeling, or how did that look? Was it scary?
Mm-hmm. So I was doing modeling in MBA, though that was okay to live in both of those worlds. But it was starting my job as a full-time management consultant where a decision had to be made. And I did their 2-month internship, was offered the role, and that all went really well. And in great fairness to the consulting firm I was supposed to start with full time, they let me have a year off to kind of go try this new world. And then from there, I realized this is the path that I need to be on. And I can't do that with management consulting. Those are 80, 90-hour weeks. And so I kind of had to give up the version of life that I had planned for to kind of go walk into this other world that I really knew nothing about. And I was just kind of guided by this feeling that this could lead me closer to the person I wanted to become.
That's really good. Wow. So with that, you also are a futurist. So what does that mean to you?
So I think it sounds a lot more fancy than it is. I would say it's in many ways a consultant. I'm analyzing data, building forecasts about different scenarios as a result of that data, and kind of going from there. The data points that I'm filling in, however, are things like patents that have been filed, posts that have been, or hiring applications and posts that have been shared to LinkedIn, building forecasts about the future based on things like technology, on history, on society as data points, not necessarily profit and loss statements from Q4 earnings, so to speak. So yes, in many ways it's a consultant, but just forecasting the future instead of something different.
Yeah, that has to be exciting and also, I mean, challenging because obviously there's so much unknown, you know?
Mm-hmm. I think the most challenging part of it is that it's very much qualitative and quantitative. And in some ways, any type of, whether it's your consultant on marketing or finance, you're going to have different data points, but forecasting the future, and I very much emphasize that it's forecasting, not predicting. I think if somebody says they predict the future, that's a whole different thing. But I think, yeah, combining these data points that are qualitative and quantitative can be a little bit more tricky. But that's why it's more about different scenarios that could occur and a rough probability as to which one it seems we're leaning into more.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Did you have any pushback or on the opposite side, support from your family or friends when you kind of took this alternate route?
I actually didn't experience any resistance. There were a couple of people that weren't necessarily in favor of the risk, and the lack of security that would come with making that decision and kind of giving everything up for just a chance. But for the most part, people were incredibly supportive. And I think we can all relate to, in one way or another, leaning into uncertainty for the chance of building the future that you want to see, whether that's in whatever aspect of your life. I think not settling for anything that doesn't feel right, I think, is something we can all relate to. And so when I would share that I don't know necessarily what this decision will lead to, but if I stay in this current world, I know that doesn't feel right. I know what this is, and kind of taking a chance on the unknown, I think, is what I have to do. And I think most people can relate to that in one way or another.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that's wonderful. Um, so I know we have worked with you in the past as Bosch as an organization. I think you've came and spoke for us before. And then recently you were obviously at CES just this past weekend or so last week in Las Vegas. What stood out to you about, I'd say, Bosch in general, but also CES? Like, what are some of those things that you're fresh off of that kind of stood out?
Yeah, I think, wow, the Bosch booth, every single aspect, every single technology was just incredible. What stood out to me, I would say the digital twin technology on athleticism and building a kind of a healthier preventative future, I think really stood out to me. I mean, I love all things augmented reality and all things digital twin. So being able to see Bosch's technology on building wearables that you use while you're working out, it creates a digital twin of you. And then you can get better insights into your movements, or you could send that to a coach. Really kind of bringing to life the idea that everything will soon be smart, connected, and autonomous. That really stood out to me, and that really excited me. And taking as a bird's eye view, and it's not about this technology or that technology. When you look at the booth in its entirety, you do see all of these devices that are going to be coming online and talking to each other, and helping you live a healthier or more efficient or more sustainable life. That was really, really exciting. And I think we've been talking about things like the Internet of Things for years, and the artificial intelligence Internet of Things. And when you zoom out at the Bosch booth, you see that. Here's this new digital ecosystem that's actually coming to life.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's so good. So when you were also kind of just in that presence, I'm sure that's like such an exciting space for someone who's in your line of work. You're in tech, you're a futurist. What are the things, like, what do you get the most excited about, even if it's beyond Bosch? Like, what are the things that just like, I am drawn to that, I need to go check that out? Or, is it the energy? Do you gain a lot from being in those environments?
I think so. I mean, because the environment is really based on curiosity and ideation, and kind of bringing different ideas to life. And I find that incredibly energizing, and exciting. And I think, CES in general, there's such an element of curiosity there, that, yeah, it's infectious. It's hard not to get energized and motivated from it.
Yeah, absolutely. This has been so good. So, I mean, I know I've been to CES in the past, but I was not able to be there this year, the last few years. And I know there's so many of us that have just wanted to be able to be there, see what's going on, especially even Bosch associates that work on these topics. Could you kind of give me like a little walkthrough, or like from your perspective, how that went for you, a little bit of the technology you saw?
Hmm. I'd say on a high level, sensors are the future. And what the Bosch booth showed is that it is these sensors that bring everything online, that turn static objects into smart pieces of technology, whether that is a piece of clothing in the Bosch kind of fitness wearable section, where you have smart clothes embedded with these sensors that allow you to do things like create a digital twin, like I had suggested, or I had commented on a couple minutes ago, or sensors that allow you to measure the quality of air in your home, for example. And this booth is actually, this one is the one that I didn't even think about until I interacted with it at Bosch. And, a lot of times when we focus on pollution and sustainability, we focus on what's happening outside. We don't think as often about what's happening inside our homes and the quality of air there. And so the smallest sensor you could imagine placed on something like your microwave lets you see the different emissions that happen inside your home, that are also not great for your health. So that was really eye-opening. And we did an example where we just popped a bag of popcorn, and you could see the sensor connected to the computing device, and you saw it on the app, the graph going up and up and up in terms of particles getting emitted inside your home from doing something like popping a bag of popcorn, which isn't great. And the solution is simply maybe opening your window. So that type of, those types of sensors really were a light bulb moment for me. And then you walk into the kind of smart home section of the booth, where we have ovens, for example, and different things in your kitchen that could be connected to, that are put on in the Internet of Things world with sensors, and that allow you to, one, be a little bit more sustainable in how you use the different tools and devices in your house. As soon as we assign or can generate data insights from something, then we can start to act. And so that's what kind of the smart home showed in the booth. And as well as just convenience, not having to worry or triple check, did you turn the oven off? And instead being able to do that kind of from anywhere in the world. That was incredible. I think the Pace car, I probably spent the most time in and around, and that's personalized, autonomous, connected, and electric. And seeing all of that kind of come together, things like LiDAR technology, where in the cars of the future, our cars are collecting data, absorbing the environment around us, using LiDAR technology, and then bringing that back into an autonomous vehicle system that's making decisions based on what it sees around you. And I think one conversation I had with an expert at Bosch, and it may have been the CTO, about, there's the light bulb moments that, and the transformation that's happening in the auto industry. And it's not just that cars are becoming electric, they're also becoming software. And that to me was a really exciting light bulb moment. Again, with the autonomous, it means that our cars are also systems that learn and think and adapt and evolve. So that was incredibly exciting for me. And then just more on a personal note, speakers from the Electro Voice brand that don't require cords, that you could bring to a beach and hook up on Bluetooth. As you know, a millennial who spends many summers on at the beach and on beaches, that to me was like, oh, this is the device I've been waiting for my whole life, and now it's here.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's amazing. I felt like I was there. Thank you for
Good.
for walking us through. This has been so good. I have really enjoyed talking to you, and I love to ask anybody who comes on the show for a piece of advice, because I think everybody loves that, and we can all use it. And if you have something, some advice, it could be personal or career, that you want to leave with the audience, I'd love for you to share that.
Yes, I would say define success for yourself and focus less on what you want to do and more on who you want to be.
That's really good. Well, thank you so much for all of your time and just sharing so openly and candidly with us.
Thank you so much for having me and hosting such a great conversation.
Absolutely.
Take care.
You too. Thanks for listening to Beyond Bosch Podcast. In case you missed our other episodes, now's your chance. Go back and take a listen.